driving is such a huge issue. And so what my role is to figure out, okay, the kids are worried, the parent is not, and is there really a safety issue here? And I'll get in the car with the client and I'll have them drive me around to figure it out. And if it's really worrisome, then yes, we'll contact the doctor and they can, contact the DMV.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF. Next Village SF is a local nonprofit providing older adults in the northeast neighborhoods of San Francisco with support to help them age in place. I'm your co-host, Lynn Winter Gross.
If you're fortunate enough to have parents who are still alive or other loved ones who are aging, you may have noticed that they sometimes need help. And if you haven't seen them in a year or so because of the pandemic, you may observe differences in their behavior since the last time you were with them. So the question is, how do you know if the changes are typical signs of aging or something more concerning?
Adult children may want to step in immediately, telling their parents they must get help in their home to clean it up, make meals, or that they should stop driving or maybe move to assisted living. Being aware of these changes and discussing them with your loved one may not be easy. The older family members want to maintain their independence, say they are fine, or they don't want to be a burden to you. And there will undoubtedly be a strain on your relationship with your family members, which will add stress and anxiety to your life.
Here to help us look for physical, emotional, environmental, and cognitive changes is Mary Hulme of Moonstone Geriatrics. Mary is a social worker with specialized certifications in healthcare and gerontology. She provides geriatric consultation, dementia education, and healthcare advocacy to adult children and their parents, helping them age safely and with dignity. Mary, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you.
How can children preserve their love while negotiating with parents who refuse to accept or admit they need help?
Well, that's a very large question. I think they really need to start by asking their parents or parent what they would like. And I have a lot of adult children that I work with who already have a preconceived notion of how things should go, where their parents should go, what their parents should do. And frequently the parent or parents have a completely different idea about how they want to age. And so I try to start with, do you want to stay at home? And I think that can open up the conversation.
A friend of mine has a father who lives alone, far away from her, but she thinks he needs care in the home, and he refuses to. He says no. And what can she do?
Not much. I mean, you can't force care on someone that doesn't want it. And I think you can start slowly. You can ask, maybe we could have somebody come in once a week to help with housekeeping. Housekeeping is probably the best way to start, because then it's not so much about the person, it's about the house. Because if you start calling it that you need care, the dad, the mom, that you need care, in my experience, the defenses go up and they're really not ready for that. But if you can couch it in a way that it would be really helpful, I think, if we could get just one person in to do the house, maybe somebody could come in and check on safety. I do a lot of safety assessments in homes, and that's how I meet my clients. They don't know what I do, but I'm able to walk in the home, do a walkthrough, talk about things like grab bars, and suddenly we have a bit of a connection. So that's how I start.
We've all heard about adult children who hire aides or caregivers for their parents, and then the parents fire them immediately. So how can we let our loved ones know we respect their desire for independence, but we still need to get them some help?
Well, if they, as we mentioned, if they have capacity, if they're not demented, and they're still, they may be 80 or 90, but they get to make their own decisions. And so if someone is repeatedly firing a caregiver, well, first of all, the caregiver situation is always very tenuous. We can figure out the schedule, we can figure out the days, but we cannot figure out chemistry. And so chemistry is very important. So I tell my families and I tell my clients, the first person probably won't work out. The second person may not work out. Maybe the third person will work out. So please, we need to be patient. Don't get frustrated. It's not about you. It's not about the caregiver, but it's someone coming into someone's home. And the chemistry is very important and impossible to figure out in advance.
Yeah, I have a friend who says, I don't want somebody in my home. I don't need somebody sitting around here all day. There's not enough for them to do. I don't want them here. And the kids say, but you need help. You fall. You need help getting up. You need help with your meals. And the parent says, I don't want help. I don't need this caretaker. What are they supposed to do all day?
Right. And they're probably right in a sense. Maybe they do need a little bit of help, but nobody wants someone sitting in their home doing nothing. And the way the caregiver situation now is, I'm having trouble finding caregivers 6 hours a day. So a lot of times the agencies want 8 hours a day, and my client needs 2. And so there's this huge gray area of, okay, well, the kids are saying, we'll just pay for 8 hours. And the client's saying, get out of my house. You know, you've cleaned the kitchen. We took a walk, go away. And so it's not just about the clients and the caregivers. It's about the situation of our healthcare system and how it's set up to provide in-home care for people. And it's set up quite terribly, in my opinion.
I think that that's where the frustration is. And as I said, I've seen that so many times. It's like, well, what is the adult child supposed to do in this situation? You just think your parents need it and the parents don't want it. So
call somebody like me to mediate, to intervene, to advocate for both, and to figure out a realistic plan.
Okay, so they call you and what do you do?
Well, let's see. In that situation, okay, the person doesn't want anybody coming in. The kids feel like somebody needs to come in. I talk to the kids first and get a lot of background information. I call it a geriatric consultation. I find out things like the doctor, the medications, ADLs, how they're functioning, any kind of memory issues. So I have that information. And then I go meet the older adult if they're in the Bay Area. And I sit with them and I talk to them and I find out from them what their wants are, what their wishes are, what's important to them. And often it's very different, as I mentioned in the beginning, from what the kids want to what the parents want or the parent wants. And so from there, what I've learned doing this for 23 years is the older adults are much more able to hear and discuss this kind of situation with someone that's not a child, not their children. Child. And I have children and, they're teenagers. I don't want them telling me what to do now. And I don't want them telling me what to do when I'm 85. So that's a dichotomy that's just going to be there. And so for me, I can go in and make a connection, usually with someone, and then try to find a middle ground.
So one of the most important things to people to keep their independence is to be able to keep driving. And so many adult children say, oh, I've got to take away the keys. I want to sell my father's car. He just can't do it anymore. And again, they object. What do you do in a case like that?
I ask the kids, when's the last time you drove with your mom or your dad?
And if they said they didn't feel safe?
Well, there's 2 answers. There's one, I don't know, it's been a year or 2. And then there is, yes, and he forgot where to turn or he forgot where the house is, that kind of thing. And so the driver's license and the driving is such a huge issue. And so what my role is to figure out, okay, the kids are worried, the parent is not, and is there really a safety issue here? And I'll get in the car with the client and I'll have them drive me around to figure it out. And if it's really worrisome, then yes, we'll contact the doctor and they can, contact the DMV, who should do another test if you can never get through to them, with the person. And they do a special test when it's someone where there's concerns about dementia. It's not a regular test for like a 16-year-old getting their license. And they'll do their own specialized test to discern, if there is an issue.
What about cases where siblings have different relationships with their parents and someone says, okay, to their sister or brother, I'm done. It's your turn.
So in those cases, I actually do a full-on meeting with the kids. I mean, I've had meetings. I think my biggest was with 5 adult children and 3 grandkids who were teenagers around their grandfather, the kid's father. So I had like 8, 9 people in the room to talk about what was going on. And everybody had a different opinion. But that's very helpful for me, that you cannot come up with a realistic care plan without getting feedback from everybody else. And then I usually
And you
say,
have one that lives in the neighborhood and the others don't.
oh, I have one in Germany, I have one in New York, I have one in Chicago, I have one in San Francisco, all over. But at least they get to feel heard. They get to feel heard. They get to talk to somebody like me and put in their input, their opinion about what's going on. And then I can pull together the best way to address it, because I'm trained in mediation. And I usually end up having one person be the point person, because you cannot continue to have conversations with 14 people. And so from there, I work to come up with a care plan, which is dispersed through one person to the rest of the family. I can't stop the conflict that's probably been going on for 50 years. So my job is to really keep my eye on the ball, which is the client or their parents or parent, and help that person.
So we talk about physical decline among people who are aging, but anxiety and depression also show up often in older people. So how do adult children or even friends know when it's time to get professional help for that person in terms of their depression?
You mean like therapy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I have to say it hasn't really worked in the last 2 years. My clients, Zoom is not something that they need to be touched. They need to have a personal interaction. So in my experience, therapy with an 80 or 90-year-old over Zoom doesn't work. But before the pandemic, yes, I think I would start with therapy. And there's a couple of great therapists. I wish we had more that did home visits, because for my clients, a lot of them, especially if they have Parkinson's, to get out of the house, to get to a therapist is so exhausting. And so there used to be a couple of therapists that did home visits, and that was so wonderful. So yes, in a perfect world, yes, have a therapist, maybe a psychiatrist if medications need to be involved. But the realistic issue of getting people to the appointments right now is absolutely mind-boggling.
One of the things we haven't talked about, and we have some friends who think it's an honor to take care of their aging parents. It's not the issue of the conflict. It's an honor. You know, my parents gave me all this, and now I really want to give back. And I have a friend who's been taking care of her parents for 7 years in her house and says it's an honor.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love to hear that. I mean, I think we should all consider it an honor, but we also need to remember relationships are complicated, and not every parent-child relationship goes as well as one might like.
And it seems in other cultures that that's kind of the given, that when parents get older, they'll move in with their kids, or their kids will move in with their parents. No questions asked.
Right. And they've seen that through the generations. So it's been mentored that it's a natural thing. It's what's expected. And that's wonderful. And yes, there are certain cultures that are so good at that. Not mine.
So we've talked a lot about help and getting help for the older adult. What are some cues that they may not be eating enough, or they're having balance issues, or they may be at risk of falling, or they seem depressed, as I asked earlier? And if you go to visit and you see the home's not clean when it used to be clean, or there's no food in the cupboard, how can a long distance relative help with that?
Well, they could make a trip there to visit. And the things that I do when I meet someone, I try to make a connection, and I'm pretty good at it, just connecting with my clients and talking to them. And then while I'm there, I talk about, I just want to check on safety. Most of my clients want to stay at home. So that's where I come from. You want to stay here. Let me see what I can do to help. So I will check the fridge. I will smell the fridge. Any food rotten, anything expired, I will look in the cupboards to see what's in there. I will ask to use the bathroom so I can see what's in the bathroom and how it looks. Before pandemic, I would always try to give them a little hug, hello or goodbye, so I could smell them. What else? Yes, that's why I do home visits. What I learned from going into someone's home is something no one can ever get from them coming to an office. And so it's the little things. And then I'm looking, are there grab bars? Are there stairs? And I learn a lot in usually less than an hour.
And what happens when you find out these things and you have these recommendations? Will the client usually say, sure, I'll put some grab bars around and watch my carpet, fix the rugs and all that?
Yes, they will. If they want to stay home and they're not demented, if they want to stay home, they're fine with it, because they understand I'm coming from a place of, I don't want you to fall. We talk about Lifeline, the Lifeline pendant. I can't tell you how many times, the kids say, oh, I ordered Lifeline. And I say, where is it? And they say, it's in the kitchen drawer. So I always say, don't order things like Lifeline without asking your parent or parents, if I buy this for you, will you wear it? Because oftentimes the answer is no, until there's a bad fall. And then once there's a bad fall, often that's when you can circle back around and say, will you wear it now? And then maybe 50% of the time they'll say yes. So I do work with the kids or the loved ones often on, let's think about what we're going to provide, but make sure it's actually going to be something that's going to be used.
Yes, I also had all of that and never used it. I didn't want to admit that I was old or needed it.
Before you go, I want to ask you about home safety evaluations for our age, for anybody. It doesn't have to be for elderly parents. What do you recommend? When you go to a home, what do you recommend besides the bar and the bathroom?
Oh, it's interesting because I'm actually started to work more with some architects who are, where people are maybe in their 60s and have decided they want to stay at home. And so there's one architect here in the neighborhood, and we've worked with a couple of clients together where we go in and it's grab bars, it's railings on the outside. This one client's going to have an elevator put in. It's going to be very expensive, but he's only 62, and he says, I have 30 years, so I'll put an elevator in. It's an old place on Haight Street with 37 steps to get in. And then lighting. I look at lighting a lot. Every time I go in the house, I'm turning all the lights on and seeing and recommending changes and brightening everything up. Slip and fall, any rug. Some of my clients, they won't take the rugs away. They want them. So the double stick tape.
Before we go, is there anything else you think we've missed that we should know about parenting our parents? And patience is one I guess we should talk about, but anything else you think we should know?
Oh, I just, it's really tough. It's really tough for these kids. And by kids, I mean like 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds. I think to just reach out for support, to talk to friends, to go to support groups. And I think hopefully we can have another conversation that is how to manage parents with dementia, because that's a different world.
Our guest was Mary Hulme of Moonstone Geriatrics.
On News You Can Use, today we want to warn you about fraud by telephone. If you have a telephone, you undoubtedly have received many robocalls and spam calls. Some are trying to sell you something, but most are trying to gain your trust and then take your money through fraudulent offers. The scammers have become so sophisticated that they alter their caller ID and continuously change their telephone number so that receivers believe it's a local call or from a legitimate source.
In 2019, telephone users received close to 60 billion fraudulent robocalls, causing many of us to stop answering our phones unless we know who the person is who's calling. It's estimated that more than 52% of cell phone calls are unsolicited or scams. Too many of the victims are older adults who are lonely and answer the phone just to have someone to talk to.
Last year, the Federal Communications Commission required all telephone carriers to use a new technology named STIR, to ensure that calling numbers are legitimate, thus reducing fraudulent robocalls. STIR/Shaken is supposed to crack down on spoofing, which is a form of fraud in which the caller uses a fake telephone number to gain a person's trust. This new requirement should help diminish fraud, but it is not the best solution. Phone companies are still working on other ways to block phone fraud, such as tracing suspicious phone calls back to the source and then reporting them to law enforcement.
According to AARP, some of the companies are already offering some new options. For example, Verizon. If your provider is Verizon and you have access to Call Filter, a free app that blocks fraudulent calls. For a fee, you can add Call Filter Plus so you can create a list of numbers to block. T-Mobile and its Sprint plans offer free tools called Scam Shield that alert users when a call is likely a scam. It offers free caller ID and a free proxy number you can give out if you want to keep your main number private. AT&T has a system called Call Protect, which blocks all known fraud calls and labels spam calls. For a fee, users can download an advanced version that includes caller ID and allows users to block or send certain calls to voicemail.
Cellular fraud is a big business, and the fraudsters are usually about 10 steps ahead of the rest of us. Last year, the FCC fined a telemarketing firm $225 million for making 1 billion fake health insurance calls. So what can you do? Your best bet is to pay attention to who's calling and to hang up once you realize it's a robocall or any kind of fraud. Don't be fooled because the caller knows your name and is oh so friendly. Hang up. Don't worry about being nice. It's better to be safe than sorry. That's our podcast for today. Our thanks to Mary Hulme of Moonstone Geriatrics. You can learn more about Next Village SF by going to their website, nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and our engineer is Jason Dahlstead. And thanks to you for listening. We'd love to hear what you would like to discover and discuss. Please contact us at nby@nextvillagesf.org. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.